Alrighty folks, welcome back to the channel. I am the Scarlet Kuriboh, and this is the Yubel deck profile. I'm going to show you the pure version of Yubel without the Fiendsmith core, and we're going to start things off with one copy of Yubel. I also run one copy of Terror Incarnate and one copy of the Ultimate Nightmare. To add to this, I use 3 copies of Spirit, as well as 3 copies of Samsara D Lotus. So Samsara is our starter. Spirit is kind of like our connecting piece. This gets us our searches. It can get you basically the entire deck with just this card. And then the Yubel cards have a very powerful effect where when one is destroyed, it ranks you up into the next one up. So they go into kind of like this cycle, and then you have some spell cards that let you reset the cycle midway. So you're always rotating these monsters out on the field. You always want to end your turn with one, or you'll have access to get another one later on in that turn. You always want to end your turn on one of these cards because we are going to be playing the Super Poly build. Super Poly is really important because with Super Poly, you can summon out the Yubel Loving Defender forever, and you can fusion summon with as many effect monsters on the field as possible. And that's exactly what this deck aims to do, which is why we want to run as many names for Yubel as possible. To help add that up, we're going to have 2 copies of Gruesome Grave Squirmer. This is a really good extender in the deck. It's also searchable, so we don't need to run 3 of it, but it's going to help connect the deck up because you can always recover a Yubel very easily with Grave Squirmer. We're going to also use 2 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. This card is really important because it gets you a lot of card rotation, and it can give you a lot of recovery when your opponent starts picking up your board. So this card's really important. It gets the opening the Spirit Gates in play. We also use 1 copy of Unchained Soul of Sharvara. This is Clifford the Big Red Dog, and he is going to give us access to a very important core of Link monsters, the Unchained core. Specifically, the one that we're looking for is Unchained Soul of Rage, Blue's Clues. So Blue's Clues and Clifford, they're both really important. This card's really good as well because it's a quick effect, so you can use it to out certain cards that would target for a card effect. We also run 3 copies of Effect Veiler, 3 copies of Ash Blossom, and 2 copies of Nibiru. Nibiru is really strong in this format. People don't like to run it because Tempai can play around it, but most decks still play into Nibiru, and there's no Apo to Omni-negate it away for a lot of the decks. So next up, we are going to go into the spells with 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Like I said, this is the main point of the deck. This is exactly what we're aiming for. And to get it faster, we are going to go for Mature Chronicle. Mature Chronicle, every time you play a Yubel monster, it gets a counter, and then once you have 5 counters, you can search out Super Poly. So this is a really important card in the deck. Searchable, so we only need to run 1, and it can give you a lot of recursion with the Yubel cards, because just for 1 counter, you can get a Yubel from your grave, so that can really keep you in the game, especially if your opponent starts outing certain things. We also run 3 copies of Nightmare Pain, another powerful continuous spell. This one's going to be another facilitator card of the deck. Gets you a search. It imposes this rule on your opponent where they have to attack your Yubel monsters, and it makes it so they're going to take an additional dose of the battle damage caused by the Yubel. So Nightmare Pain is really important. Every time it's on the field, your opponent has to waste resources to try and out it. We also use 3 copies of Nightmare Throne. Very powerful searcher of the deck. It also has a secondary ability where you can destroy a Yubel in your deck instead of searching it out, and that can kind of get your combo started. And as a third effect, when one of your Yubel monsters leaves the field, it gets to rotate you out another Yubel with a different level, ignoring its summoning conditions. So that lets you get into the level 12 Yubel, that lets you use the level 9 Yubel, Phantom of Yubel. If it gets outed for some reason, you can go that right into the Spirit or the level 10 Yubel. So it's a very, very important card because it lets you rotate and keeps your recursion up. I like to throw 1 Terraforming in there just to search it out. We also, in terms of recursion, have Opening the Spirit Gates. So this card on the field, once you have it, it can help you float out a Yubel, but more importantly, it can also grab you any of your continuous spells from the grave back to your hand. So it's able to recurse everything that you have, be it your Mature Chronicle to summon more monsters or your Nightmare Pain so you can inflict damage. So it's a really important card. It got limited in the latest ban list, but it's still really important because it helps you with a starter. I'm using 3 copies of Forbidden Droplets. Board breakers are really important in this deck, especially because of how many monsters and spells you have on the field. You can use this card to get rid of them. If it's clogging up your field, you can negate more cards. I think it's really important, and we have a lot of resource looping in the game, so Droplets is really powerful in this deck. We're going to go for 3 Imperm. This card is one of the best cards in the game. As far as trap cards, I also like to run 1 Abominable Unchained Chamber. This is really just so I have a target for when Clifford leaves the field. It's a very important card because it also lets you get the Link monster back, the Unchained Soul of Rage, Blue's Clues. We also run 1 Eternal Favorite. A lot of people have abandoned this card. It's another super poly. It's also one that you have access to just by searching, so I think this card's really important, and it's a must-have in the deck. Let's go through the extra deck really quick. I'm going to start with 2 copies of Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever. This card is the super poly target of all time. You get to use 1 Yubel monster and then any number of effect monsters, be it on your field or your opponent's field, so this makes super poly really, really powerful. We're also going to use 1 Phantom of Yubel. This card is cracked. It is insane. You can run 3 of this card. It's unbelievably powerful. It's also pretty expensive, but the reason we use this is because all you need is to take a Yubel monster and then any 0 attack fiend in your grave. You shuffle them back into your deck, so you're not even getting rid of them. You're literally shuffling them back, adding to your recursion. You get to summon this guy out for free. It's basically a monster negate for free. And then as soon as you use its effect, you tribute it off, and then you pop Yubel in your deck. So that Yubel that gets popped summons out another Yubel. So you're never really leaving the field with nothing on the line. Phantom of Yubel is a very powerful card. Just in case we need other super poly targets, we have Starving Venom, Mud Dragon, and Garura. So that's going to be the super poly core of the deck. For XYZs, I like to run 1 Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Dread Dynamo. This is just a push for game. If you have 2 Yubels on the field, you can overlay, burn for 2,000. Sometimes that's all you need to win the game. So it's situational, but it's pretty good. The real rank 10 is Varudras, the Bringer of End Times. This is an Omni Negate. It's also, I believe, 3 pops or 2 pops, depending on how you play it. Very powerful card, and 3,000 attack points is a very reliable card to swing into if we only have Yubels on the field, and for some reason we need to swing in for damage. 1 Lord of Yama, 1 Blue's Clues, 1 Clifford of Anguish, 1 Unchained Abomination. So Abomination and Varudras kind of parallel each other. They can pop a lot. But these cards are the real reason we're playing the deck. Yama is a searcher. Really, once it's on the field, gets you a Unchained card, and that Unchained card can help you build up into Rage. Yama also gives you recursion from the graveyard, because you can banish it when one of your guys gets destroyed and summon out any of your fiends. So you can get another Yubel through this card, so it's very cool, kind of connects the archetypes. Soul of Rage is the really important one. This one is very powerful, because on your opponent's turn, you're able to tribute this and another one of their monsters, and you can link summon with it. So it's very, very cool, honestly. It's one of my favorite cards in the entire game. You can use this to special summon a really important card like SP Little Knight, or you can even go into something like Anguish. Anguish is the very same effect, but on your turn instead of your opponent's. So it takes a little bit more resources. It's the Link 3, so you don't use it anywhere near as often, but sometimes you can summon this one. You can use the Link effect to break your opponent's board by using one of their monsters, and then going into Rage, and then waiting for their turn, and then using Rage's effect to go into SP Little Knight. So you can kind of see the power of these Unchained cards. The reason we play them is just for the Unchained Soul of Rage, being able to float into something like SP Little Knight. I also run 1 Salamangreat just to protect our Dark Beckoning Beasts, because they are a normal summon with 1,000 less attack. I'll throw in an Access Code Talker just for good measure. We don't have Apo in that slot anymore, so this is the obvious alternative. And that's the deck. What do you guys think of the Yubel deck? Pure Yubel is very, very different than Fiendsmith Yubel. The Fiendsmith deck is a lot more combo-based, but the Pure deck is a little bit more of a control deck, so it's very interesting. The pace of the deck is very different. And then with cards like Nightmare Pain, with cards like Nightmare Throne, you're able to sustain and really interrupt your opponent. So they really aren't able to do much while you're playing your game, which is my favorite part of the deck. It's very unique, it's very dynamic, and with Super Poly, you're always able to break the board for Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever. So that's the deck. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on the channel. Don't forget to drink some water and have a great day.